Welcome, Empire fans, to tonight's podcast with Coach Rob Woodward. Coach, congratulations on your win against Waverly. And Waverly did some things in the air that kind of surprised you, I'm sure. What was Waverly doing that was attacking some of your secondary that you had to adjust there during the game?
Well, it gave us a week of preparing for the passing game, which we hadn't had the two previous weeks against Jackson. No kill. They were primarily run teams, didn't throw the ball a lot. So it was a good test for us throughout our week of preparation. They do a nice job with their run-pass option. They've got some nice athletes out there. They're young athletes that are still working. So, it was a great week of preparation in our secondary. I thought we did a good job putting guys in positions. Their passing is all about timing, and they're really good with the timing that they have with that. We knew we wanted to make sure we stopped the run and didn't allow them to do things up front. And then we just talked to our players about being in the right spot and then coming up and making the tackles. And really, I thought overall we did a great job of that. We gave ourselves some bad field position there to start the game, and they were able to capitalize on that. Great play by one of their receivers to go up and really get the ball out of the air. And then, two big plays aside from that, but are the only other scores in the game. And I really felt like our defense stepped up and did a good job. And they got nice players. So they're guys that we had a missed tackle on the screen play, and another double move. That when you play aggressive, you're taking a risk of that happening, and obviously we don't want that to happen. It did, but our kids didn't hang their heads, and I thought a great week of preparation again, and a great display on Friday.
I thought in the game that the run-pass option is one of those type of offenses that you just kind of have to settle in initially, because at first it kind of shocks you the way it runs, but then the couple of passes they made that were touchdown passes, I thought our guys were right on top of them. It was just a great throw by the Waverly quarterback.
Yeah, his timing is great with that. But again, a good double move and then missed tackles on the screenplay were really the two big plays. And aside from that, they hit some other plays here and there in situations. But you're right, our guys were right there on top of it, and then they were coming up. I think I told them I counted a total of 3 missed tackles in the first half and really 1 in the second half. And when you have as many opportunities out there in the perimeter, that's where a lot of times you have those missed tackles is out in the open field. And guys like Bryson Keeney, great job on coming up and making tackles. Cole Lowry and Micaiah Matthews and Tanner Holden and Avery Denini and Horsley, they all did a good job, but there were a handful of them there that we did miss. And we recognized that, but making an emphasis on that, I think, kept that number from being any higher, and our kids really bought into that, did a good job of preparing through the week.
And you guys continue to have success running in the middle. You got to be pleased with your tackle-to-tackle line play. Just briefly talk about what you saw in the Waverly game that was clicking there.
Well, what I really saw was us step into overdrive. That was the fastest that we ran a couple sets down the field that we've ran since maybe 2012 and 2013 when we were first putting the offense in and really trying to talk about going fast. And we really didn't know we were going to do that. We just kind of took advantage of it. We saw an opportunity, saw an open lane, and boom, hit that gas and went. And our kids, our players, executed. And they really executed. Dominic Reyes ran great. Valen Haywood at the center getting the guys up on the line and running those plays, and it was really, really effective there for a couple drives when we went super fast like that. So it was good to see that we could do that.
Sometimes in a game, you guys will see officials' flags come flying a lot, and regardless of why they're throwing or what how do you continue to tell your players to settle in and keep their heads focused?
Well, there's things that we can't control in a ball game. We got to control the things that we can, and a number of those penalties were things that we can control. Obviously, they're barking out some cadence or motion things, and our kids are jumping with that. So, hats off to them. Us as a coaching staff, we're making those corrections. That's not going to be an issue. We feel again, we're going to make sure that we are got our kids ready for something that's in that situation, and so we can control that. So that's an area. But then there was other times where we're being aggressive, and some things happen. But hey, It's part of the game of football. I know I'm not going to coach our guys to be any less aggressive in how they play. Just got to make sure we watch how I guess we're portrayed sometimes after some of those plays. But, again, the aggressiveness is what I want to continue to see as a head coach.
You moved on to Memphis, and what does Memphis do that strength-wise that the Williamsburg Pirates have to adjust to?
Well, the quarterback's a big part of the run game. They got another nice back there, Gaines, that runs hard. But they're trying to really utilize formations and trying to get Braden Tilley, who's a great receiver for him out there on the edge, open in some singled-up situations where he can run some routes and does a nice job catching the ball. So they'll occasionally bring him in motion and run him a little bit too. So we've got to really know where he's at and know where, what maybe they're tipping their hand in regards to what formation that they may have. We've just got to make sure that we're aligned and focused on what our responsibility is and continue to get better at that.
More than likely, this is going to be your last football game on grass. Is there anything different that the players have to prepare for on a grass field?
Well, footing is just so key. Today's manufactured cleats are generally, as a whole, made for turf, and our kids obviously all own a pair of those. But having a pair that is good on grass, and grass can vary at this time of the year. It can be a sod that clumps up and comes off and is stuck to your feet at different times. It can be a sod that is real hard and long blades of grass within it. You just don't know for sure what it's going to be. But it's so important that you have footing that the cleats will definitely dig into the ground, but won't carry that mud with them if it would happen to be a damp. Even in the fall time of the year, sometimes you get this damp moisture that'll get on the ground, and if it's loosened up a little bit, they'll stick to those cleats. So, we got to make sure that our kids have good footing, and that they start to work on how they break out of their routes. That footing's not going to be as solid as it is out here on the turf, so we got to make sure that we're throttling down and getting a good chop of steps there and shorten our steps. But that will all come with a preparation of a week on grass ourselves. So we'll mimic that on the grass all this week and make sure that our guys are ready for that.
Any final thoughts before we get off this week, Coach?
Growth. That's what I want to continue to see out of our players. So we as a staff really challenged ourselves on Sunday. Where do we need to improve? How do we need to improve? Drawing up a game plan for us to implement throughout the week to ensure that our players are actively growing within the scheme of things and making sure that we've got all those options. You're getting late into the season, sicknesses or injuries or any of that kind of stuff can creep up on you. You want to make sure that you're able to move like clockwork and not limit yourself in what you're able to do if one guy's out. So that's something that we're trying to continue to prove ourselves on.
I've been told that you make a mean sausage patty.
Well, one of the things you got to keep happy anytime. You think 83 players is hard to keep happy within a team or a program. How about 8 coaches that are trying to take time away from their families and trying to utilize their time best? So one thing that I do on those Sundays when we get together is I get home from church, I make a big feast of some sort that my family can eat, and maybe we'll eat on it the rest of the week, but also that our coaching staff can dive into. This week, one of my daughter's pigs that she took to the fair, we happened to get that back from the butcher shop, made ourselves some.
Now, do you slaughter the pig?
We take that down here to local butcher shops. I'm just learning some of those here in the area, and so we got that back last week. So I got a couple hams smoking that'll be coming in another week or so. But I took some of that pork sausage. Last week we had sandwiches, eggs, cheese, and sausage sandwiches. This week we had breakfast burritos. Big Steve Sutton was into the breakfast burritos, so we had that topped with some shredded cheese and topped with some salsa and all kinds of things. I had plenty of burritos, so the guys were diving into that, and makes for a good time for us to get together. And I like to cook, and it's something that.
And what's that seasoning salt you told me one time that?
The Baldridge seasoning. Baldridge seasoning out of.
They'll owe us $2,000.
Yeah, out of Nebraska for that. Yeah. Anybody got a chance, jump online, go to jimbaldridge.com. Jim Baldridge seasoning. I used to serve that when I helped their farms out when I was working out in Denver, Colorado at the National Western Stock Show, and we used to put that on the steak, and I loved divvying that up to different people as they came by, and I'd make sure I get me a little piece, and then I'd divvy up another piece for them, and then get myself a little piece.
Now, do you miss some of the farming that?
I do. I miss the farming all the time, but I realized real early in my career that if I was going to do football and farming, if I tried to do both, they both require so much time, and I'll throw family in there, the other F, 3 F's there. Family, of course, is number one, but to be great at one of the other two takes so much. I was going to be mediocre at both if I tried to do that, so my dad always encouraged me. The farm will always be here. You can come back to that. Go live this dream and coaching football for as long as you want to, and you can come back to that anytime.
That's Coach Rob Woodward with this week's podcast. Tune in BurghFan.com, but hopefully you guys can make it out to Muletown and catch the Pirates taking on the Memphis Falcons.